At the end of 2020, Fall Guys experienced one of the greatest launch months in gaming history and was by far one of the biggest games in the world, with an average player count of over 120,000 people during the first month of its release. Although today the game is having trouble reaching even 3,000 concurrent players, and it's all because of another game that copied them. Back in August of 2020, riding the success wave of the Battle Royale trend, Fall Guys attracted the likes of popular streamers like PewDiePie, Dr. Disrespect, and even Mr. Beast, all within the first 2 weeks of the game being out. But Fall Guys was much different than any other popular game at the time. Fall Guys wasn't free to play. The game used to cost $20 and was only available on PS4 and PC. At the time, this had seemed like a huge turnoff, especially with Fortnite and Warzone being so big and both of those games being free to play. But this was quickly shot down, as within the first 3 weeks of Fall Guys release, they became the most downloaded game on PlayStation Plus history. Probably due to it being one of the only laid-back multiplayer party-style games during the pandemic, but this high would unfortunately be very short-lived, because the following months came with the hype of Among Us, which reached heights far greater than Fall Guys. Although both were party games, and eerily enough their character design was extremely similar, Among Us did many things a lot better than their colorful Death Run competitor. Some of which being that it was available on mobile, it was free, and it was much easier for content creators to make videos around. For example, Disguised Host was averaging 100 million views a month during the peak of his daily uploading of Among Us videos. During that month and through October, Fall Guys saw a 60% decline in player base, taking their average players down to just 12,000, which would eventually fall under 9,000 in the following months. Fall Guys would then hold steady for the next 7 months until something they never could have predicted happened during October of 2021. Stumble Guys releases on mobile and Steam, and just 7 months after the release in May of 2022, they overtake their originators, having over 10,000 average players on just PC alone. And after that, Stumble Guys was being played by everyone. The game saw over 600,000 downloads per day, totaling over 265 million in their first year on the App Store, peaked at 20 million daily active users, and was played for more than 1 billion hours, which is equivalent to 114,000 years. And because of their success, they started partnering with brands that Fall Guys had never gotten the chance to, such as Nerf, the Barbie movie, and even the NFL. How did a game that came out over a year after Fall Guys now sit at the second most downloaded game of 2022? Well, first we have to look at the similarities and differences that each game has. Arguably, the biggest difference is that Fall Guys is not available on mobile. The gaming industry is now worth more than $300 billion, and mobile gaming takes up 52% of that. For example, Stumble Guys can be played absolutely anywhere at any time, whereas Fall Guys is particularly played inside of your house. Stumble Guys is also a much faster pace, having a max of only 32 players per game compared to the 60 that can be in a single Fall Guys match, which in the day and age of TikTok and short form content is clearly ideal. But you may be wondering, if this game is so similar and has completely stolen their audience, why doesn't Fall Guys just sue them? Well, the answer is a little hard to pinpoint because copyright laws stretch along a very broad spectrum. While both games share similarities in terms of obstacle courses and battle royale style gameplay, there are also notable differences in terms of platforms, control schemes, progression systems, and more. And due to these differences, even if minor, can make it hard to establish a clear case for copyright infringement, although there are a few aspects that are definitely direct ripoffs. But since Stumble Guys didn't steal any in-game assets or copy any direct lines of code from Fall Guys, Epic Games doesn't really have any ground to stand on. In copyright law, not everything about a game is protectable. Copyright primarily covers the expression of ideas, but not the ideas themselves. Therefore, if Stumble Guys made enough substantial changes to the expression of the gameplay ideas, it wouldn't technically be infringing on Fall Guys copyrights because it would be considered a form of fair use. If that was possible, you could argue games like Minecraft copied Terraria, Roblox copied Legos, Fortnite copied PUBG, and so on. Stumble Guys was also created by Kitka Games, which is a development team out in Finland. This makes it even harder for legal dispute to happen because you're dealing with international procedures that would differ from laws in the States. So where does that leave us today? While both games aren't necessarily growing as rapidly as they once were, Stumble Guys has managed to keep their player count steady and just announced at Gamescom that they will be making their way onto Xbox consoles and will now have split screen capability. Fall Guys, on the other hand, is currently seeing their lowest player count in history, and part of that reason might be that they went over half of this year without releasing a single update. They did host a Twitch Rivals event back in May, which did raise their player count, but not even enough to peak at 6,000 players. What started out as a clone for fans to play a similar version on mobile quickly became one of the biggest mobile games in history.